Okay, greetings everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, enjoying life, loving life. All of it. Okay. And I was kind of hoping our brother Derrick would show up, and he might yet, but we're going to go ahead and get started. Um, Before we do, make sure you hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons. Get this information out. This isn't just information I put out. It's information many people put out. And one of the things I want you to know about Derrick Gonzales is he's a man that stands on his word. I know the man personally. I've met him privately and gave him a big hug. Stayed with him for a bit and went over paperwork. And he's very well put together, very well structured man. He's got a class coming up on the 24th. And if people pay attention, they might find a remedy, a preemptive remedy to something they might have come up in the future, or they might even be able to find a course of remedy in what he's trying to teach people, because it is remedial for everybody to learn this stuff. You want to pay fortunes to go to college to learn things, and this guy wants to put on a class and charge $100, and you can sit there with 500-600 people that chip in $1 a piece to sit behind a tube and watch him. Then that's fine. He doesn't care as long as it's 100 people per the Zoom. He's got 100 seats. He wants to fill them. $100 a seat. I think that's pretty good for an education that he's going to put on, and it's not just going to be a 1 hour video. This thing is going to be, I assure you, probably at least 24 hours, if not 48, maybe even 72 hours. This is the guy I spoke with on Paul's panel of the insanity that we're going through on those panels. And he's been doing it for 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 months. This gentleman here, Derrick Gonzales, is the one that did the never-ending Zoom that lasted for 1.5 years. Constantly in there studying law with people that know exactly what they're doing, bankers, lawyers, police, public officials, and everything that are behind the scenes. So think about this stuff, and remember, when you want to learn how to communicate, you got to learn how to communicate yourself, and then you got to learn how to express it to others, and then you have to know who those others are to express it to. This is going to be a course in doing that, so please pay attention. In the meantime, we're going to get over and get on with it. Greetings, sunshine. And anybody else that's watching, again, please hit that share, like, and subscribe button. Get this information out. This is on my alternate channel here. We've only got like 44 subscribers at the moment, but as soon as my restriction is up, I believe it's up tomorrow sometime on the other channel, I will do this again. I'm specifically doing this to drive people to Derrick Gonzales' stuff because he's got a class coming up. He is one of the people I have listed on my site. He is one of the first people I listed on my site. Very conscientious, and he is one of those people like myself. I don't give a fuck. Not one fuck about anybody's thinking in reason and logic if it's not true. So these politicians and public officials that are placating that we're liable for any reason are blatantly wrong, and they're just doing the paperwork wrong. So he's going to show you how to retribute that. And in the meantime, like I said, I will be doing this on my other channel tomorrow. So this is Derrick Gonzales, folks. And he, like I said, is a soldier in this spiritual warfare, and he will bring the word of God down better than I do. 26 felonies out of the way, child support, gun felonies, all kinds of stuff. Truck in trust, no payment, all done through paperwork. The guy knows what he's doing. And if people will just start to listen and realize that your education is pertinent, you need to quit thinking that you just don't have anything else to learn after you graduate from high school, because that's the delusion. They didn't teach you anything in high school except to remember what they told you to repeat. It's just a repeat team. That's all it is. So let's get into this. Yesterday was his day of nativity, as he calls it. Everybody else calls it a birthday. The day they were born on is the day of nativity. So think about this. And he was given a great present. The ability not to give a man a fish so he could feed himself for a day, but to be able to teach each other how to fish so they can feed themselves for a lifetime. And again, the principle of that is not just so you can teach another man so he can learn how to fish for himself, but so that he also will turn around and teach another man. Each one teach one.
I received these things. Oh, yes. And I have been praying today.
Let's go back all the way to the beginning.
Greetings. I hope everybody is doing well. You might wonder why I'm looking so snazzy this evening. Well, let me tell you, I got the greatest gift the Heavenly Father could have given me on my day of nativity today. Today, I received these things. Oh, yes. And I have been praying to the Heavenly Father that some idiot would give me an opportunity. God, just give me the opportunity to come put some of these tyrannical sons of bitches in Guantanamo Bay. And I have the opportunity of a lifetime. It was amazing. Today, on my way to wash this private household consumer good, otherwise identified as an automobile, not required to be registered by anybody or to anybody, I was accosted against my will under threat, duress, and coercion. And I was informed that I had to have certain documents in order to do what I was doing. And I would smile from ear to ear. I haven't smiled like that in years, guys. It was amazing. And I think the state trooper realized how magnanimous it was, because I had a smile from ear to ear. It was priceless. And he was so nervous, just seeing how elated I was about this transaction that was about to occur. And the beautiful thing about it is I have a class on the 24th coming up, and you can bet your sweet little peaches the class is now going to include the private administrative process and how I handle business. But unlike most people who are just trying to abscond from a duty or an obligation or try to get out of something, I'm here to send people to Guantanamo fucking Bay, and I fucking mean it. And while I'm doing that, you guys get to be a part of it on June 21st or 24th, Saturday at 12 o'clock Eastern time. Now, this class is definitely going to be a fuck of a lot longer than it was before. It's going to be so great.
And like I said, it's likely going to be at least 24 hours, 48, if not 72 or more. His last one was 48 hours.
Mr. Anonymous, myself, Smoking Baby, and a number of other people are now in communication. We are all dying laughing because it couldn't have happened to a better fella. It couldn't have been a better gift given to me by the Heavenly Father than to lead his people to truth and righteousness, what is true, accurate, correct, and not misleading. Now, I really feel for the fellow that had an engagement with me today. He's from Haiti. But there's opponents to this. Because he's from Haiti, he had to get a green card, all right? Which means that he went through a scrupulous process to be admitted here in America.
Oops. You see where he's getting, folks? This is an internationalist. No matter how you look at it. Any kind of national documentation being required while the other person is under the scrupulous scrutiny of national documentation means that each and every incident in those capacities is an international incident.
The Great Republic, ladies and gentlemen. He went through a process that tells me that he knows more about the Constitution than probably any of the other people that he works with, okay? So doing deposition with this gentleman is going to be a joy. It is going to be so much fun. Now, the sad thing about this, and he was a very cordial officer, but then again, I don't engage in placating to their nefarious activity. I'm not going to come down with Stockholm syndrome and show any mercy at all, because after all, the law is the law. There is no substitution. Now, I fully informed this gentleman that I was being accosted against my will, which was a false arrest and false imprisonment under the guise that some benign statute made me beholden to him. And I asked him, is this a crime? And he says, no, 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 no. You don't understand. Let me explain. Oh, Lucy, you can explain until you're blue in the face. I am all ears. I am not here to argue with you, but if you want to explain yourself, Lucy, by all means, be my guest. See, he didn't realize that who he was speaking to puts him in a position where every statement he makes, he endangers his quality of life even more. Not that I'm physically going to take it from him. No, 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 no. I am not going to do that. What I am going to do is I am going to get my full compensation for my valued time commodity. And here's the evidence I needed. Now, what's fun.
This man plays Isaiah 54, verses 1 through 17 to the hilt. Particularly 17, no tongue shall prosper against thee. Ye shall rise up in judgment against anybody that would placate against you. The inheritance of the servants of the Lord. This is what he does.
Funny about this. I'm going to tell you a little bit about this transaction because it was fucking priceless. Comes up to me, he says, license, registration, proof of insurance. I said, whoa, 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 Scooter, hold up, wait a minute. What do I owe this occasional meeting? What grants rise to you stopping little old me? And he said, well, your plates are not registered. Oh, okay. And he said, and you don't have a seatbelt on. Ah, all right. Two for the price of one. Now, in his initial statement, he just mentioned the plates. The second time he reiterated, oh, also, you no seatbelt. Perfect. Love it. Love it. So he proceeded to inform me that I had violated an IC code. Wonderful. At no point in time did he say that I had created a crime or committed a crime. And at no point in time did he say that he had reasonable articulable suspicion, reasonable articulable probable cause, supported by a reasonable articulable fact that I had engaged in some felonious activity in front of him that he lay witness to that would grant rise to him stopping me on the side of the road, impeding my right to egress, regress, and ingress freely as an American man.
See, they have to have probable cause before they even pull you over, whereas a traffic citation is not probable cause. This is where they violate the process that's due. That's why that plate is on the car, so that they can write it down and then communicate the offense appropriately in private, according to Matthew 18, verses 15 through 20. This is the private administrative process. And since they violated it, now he's got to continue that administrative process. But what he does is he uses it appropriately, and he's going to go to court before the court date and address it in private with the clerk and the magistrate.
Oh, what a fucking mistake. And of course, I'm just smiling. I mean, I'm cheesing like I've never cheesed in my life. I just started saying, thank you, God. Thank you, God. I thought all this time I had wasted learning this. Thank you so much. On the day of my nativity, you bring me a gift. Oh, wonderful. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about extortion on the side of the road via disarms, which is aggravated assault and battery. It's aggravated theft. It's aggravated extortion.
Greetings, brother. Greetings.
Greetings. How are you, man?
I am good. I am good.
Good. Yeah, it's a beautiful day to be alive, and times are most certainly changing, and the American people are waking up to realize why every other nation once adorned America so much, and I think they're starting to realize that they're losing what once was so great about this nation at a phenomenal rate. And finally ready to stand up and sound off like they got a Paris. It's time to start teaching them how to prosecute, because the system is so corrupt that none of them will prosecute each other because they're all guilty of some type of crime, whether it be fiddling with little kids or adrenochrome or trafficking, babies, whatever it is.
Are you working with a mic? Something's wrong with your mic. You're muffled.
Oh, my apologies. Let me see.
There we go. Much better.
All right. Yeah. So I'm elated to see that the times are turning and changing into the positive, where people who were once dormant are now awake and alive and saying the truth of the matter.
Yeah, and it's only by the grace of God that He sends us people like yourself, brother, the ones that have the heart to stand up and actually do something about it. That's one of the biggest things that we have going in this community, is there's so many people that seemingly want to learn, and they seemingly are sitting there taking notes, but they never do anything about it. So,
well, the important thing, one of the most basic elements, is comprehending and understanding freedom isn't free. Everybody that ever believed that freedom was free and that it's already been ascertained and that it's secure, that's the greatest misnomer in history. Freedom has never been free. Freedom takes work. Freedom takes applied effort. It takes ascending of the mind, acquiring the knowledge, and then it also involves people being involved adamantly, vehemently, day in and day out. Or if we slumber on our rights, we lose them. If we don't make an issue when the issue arises, we waive the issue and we accept and we agree to the new terms, conditions, and standards. I'm one of those guys. I know you are not either. And so the beautiful thing is, Keith, I think you've been at this well over 12, 13 years now. I mean, as long as I've known you, you've been doing this. And I can remember 10, 12, 13 years ago doing this, and I had communities that just thought I was stark, raving, mad lunatic. And now they're looking back going, hey, you think that's why that crazy Gonzales guy was so fucking pissed off in court, telling the judge he could kiss his ass and go fuck himself? And people were just appalled. You can't talk to a judge like that. I will talk to that motherfucker anywhere I see fit, because he's a tyrant. He's a tyrant. Now, the difference between me then and now is now I have the knowledge to back it up. Now,
you have fun with it.
2023 is to send these fuckers to Guantanamo fucking Bay for treason.
And you have fun with it too. And another thing I got to support you with is, I've said many times, when I realized I'd reached freedom, it's only because I realized, oh, wait a minute. It's because I started taking on the responsibilities that are mine to begin with.
Amen. And that's what freedom's all about. You nailed it, Keith. The freedom is all about accountability, responsibility, and liability. Do you have the ability to make an account, to make a record? Do you have the ability to see that they can lie to you? That's liability. They have the ability to lie. Do you have the ability to see that they have the ability to lie to you? Okay. And then there's a responsibility. Are you able to respond after making the account or the record of what transpired about the lies they told to you? And can you hold them responsible for it? And ultimately, the DOJ, the FBI, the CIA, MI5, MI6, all these alphabet gangs and agency, they're not authorized to even operate on our soil. Okay, the FBI doesn't even have a corporate charter. The CIA was never authorized by we the people. We never voted on any of these agents and agency. What they call them is quasi-public, quasi-private organizations. Well, I'm here to tell you right fucking now, you're fucked if you're dealing with me. If you come to talk to me, you're with the FBI, pack a fucking lunch and bring 3 forms of ID. And I want to know where you live, because see, here's the misnomer about people. People go, well, the sheriff caused me harm. The sheriff caused me damage. The sheriff caused me loss. No. That's an egregious misstatement. The sheriff is nothing more than Peter Pan, Tinkerbell, the Easter Bunny. That is the titles of nobility our very founding fathers warned us about. You see the title of Esquire, king, bailiff, all these titles are nothing more than titles, okay? The title can't hurt you. It's the man who at times acts as a sheriff that caused I, a man, harm. They caused I harm by way of trespass, okay? And trespass supersedes all statutes, codes, city ordinances, rules, regulations, period. I don't care what statute, code, city ordinance, rule, regulation you allege that I violated. Absent a victim, absent a crime, absent me creating some felonious activity in front of your own eyes, there is not jack dick you can do to me except for federally indict me by collecting evidence and presenting it to a grand jury. Then you can get a true bill from a grand jury if all the evidence aligns and they feel there's enough evidence to prosecute. Now, unfortunately, in the world, a lot of people are incompetent. That's why they say a grand jury will indict a ham sandwich, because most people are obliviously fucking ignorant to their rights. And they go, well, the cops gave us all this. It must be true. Screw it. We agree. There's enough evidence. Go ahead and prosecute.
Yeah, and I want people to pay attention to the language that Derrick is using. This is, again, goes back to, you got to learn how to communicate. And then you have to learn how to express that communication, and you have to know who to express it to. And if you don't have the first foundation of the communication, that's why you're where you're at. You're still calling them the sheriff. Like he said, it's not the sheriff.
No, I go directly after the man or woman causing me a harm, damage, loss, or a hardship. Listen to this word hardship. Hardship automatically invokes equity. All right. When we're looking to be outside of maritime admiralty law, we are looking to use very specific language. All right. And that language is, I have been caused harm by way of trespass, by way of theft. Theft trumps all statutes, codes, city ordinances, rules, and regulations, period. Rights are property and property are rights. Without one, you can't have the other. All right. So theft of my time, theft of my valued time source commodity, okay, that's a theft. To detain me in a location for a duration of time unknown because you violated some statute, code, city ordinance, rule, and regulation without a verified criminal complaint or claim made by a man or woman aggrieved by my actions, with a statement of fact alonged to that verified claim or complaint, with an affidavit signed and sworn to under the pains and penalties of perjury that is verifiable. Anybody who accosts you against your will is guilty of false arrest and false imprisonment. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a clear and cut Fourth Amendment violation. You notice I didn't say I had a Fourth Amendment right. My right to be left alone is long antecedent to anything that was ever written on paper or scribed by any of the Pharisees, all right? I have a right to be left alone, to be peaceful and to enjoy life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, because after all, in the preamble of the Constitution, what does it say? To our peace and our posterity, meaning if you're out there mowing over trees with a AK-47 fully automatic, does that bother me? No. Does it cause me a harm, injury, or loss? No. Is it bringing you joy? Possibly. Is it any of my fucking business? No. Why? It's not hurting me. It's not causing me a harm, a damage, a loss, an injury. All right. I have no grounds for making a claim until maybe, it's 10 o'clock at night and my kids are sleeping and you're right next door to me doing an AK-47 mowing over a tree. Now you may be disturbing my peace, but in lieu of contacting some agent and agency to come over there and extort you, I'm going to come over next door and see if we can sell this privately. Hey, man, it's 10 o'clock at night. I got babies sleeping. You mind being cool? Hey, thanks. I appreciate that, man. That's neighborly love. We're supposed to be taking care of our brothers and our sisters. We're supposed to be responsible and being able to communicate with one another. And see, the agency needs you to be dependent upon them. And in reality, the reason they need you to be dependent on is how they profit. They need you to see something, say something. Well, we've been talking about how the government's corrupt for fucking hundreds of years at this point. And ain't nothing being done. And everybody's squawking and talking about it. So the only time that you see something, say something, is when it doesn't pertain to them and their organization and their agents and agency. Then they're more than happy to receive any information you have, because they're going to go out and fleece your fellow brother and sister. And the Bible clearly warns us.
Yeah.
not to bear false witness against our fellow man. But what does a lawyering craft do? They bear false witness every fucking day. They don't swear to it. Their pleadings are not able to be verified. Okay. And these are the quintessential key elements to bringing a claim. All parties must be properly identified. Number one. Two, the claim must be verifiable, means that it must be signed before a notary or two verifiable witnesses that can lay claim to the fact that you signed the document in front of them, that you are alleging the facts to be true, correct, accurate, not misleading. You're facing 1 year in jail and a $10,000 fine if you are found to be lying and perjuring yourself in order to ensnare one of your brothers and sisters, which is bearing false witness. Go ahead.
And I've got a point I want to bring up on that as well. As so remind me on the identification of the parties. We've got a question down in the chat about are you still in communication with Michael Gonzales or Robert Michael? And then the thing about the identification I want to bring up in your class is through my research I found out that the obligor is identified by a number.
This very well may be as far as the estate, because again, they're in military admiralty in the law of salvage. They're only dealing with fictions.
Right, the vessel. So the obligor is actually the vessel, not the
They're
vessel.
dealing with fictions and they're dealing with trusts. So here's a very quick way to identify what jurisdiction you are in. Immediately upon entry of a court, and before you enter the court, quite properly, what you should be doing is notice an opportunity, which is the piece of paper. See, the actual courtroom is nothing more than theatrics. To be or not to be. You know, it's a Shakespeare fucking Roman circus. The real court is on the paper. How we establish facts on the record is one of three ways. We create an affidavit and then we're deposed on that affidavit and we testify under the pains and penalties of perjury. And if we are unrebutted or rebuked in our statements of fact, then that becomes facts evidenced on the record. The second way is judicial notices. Judicial notices cannot be struck from the record. All right. And the third way is by acquiescence and tacit agreement. For example, I say, Keith, you kicked my dog on Sunday. I give you 21 days to rebut and rebuke. Keith doesn't rebut and rebuke. Keith admits by omission, by tacit procreation, his silence being acquiescence, that he kicked my dog. And now I have an established fact on the record that has been stipulated to by Keith by his failure to respond. Now, in maritime admiralty law, everything is presumption, assumption, and hearsay, period. So the only way to get facts established onto the record is, in fact, to start dialect back and forth in written form, because words so often spoken dissipate in the wind. But when it is articulated in written form and mailed properly through a private administrative process or through a non-biased third party, right? That's due process of law, because we don't want to incite any conflict. And the other thing is, if I had a problem with Keith and I sent Keith a document, well, I'm the only one that can verify that, and that's a conflict of interest. I need some type of non-biased third-party individual who can testify to the veracity of the document that was mailed, when it was mailed, how it was mailed, when he received it. Things of that nature. It's just a system for keeping people honest when we look at it. It took me a long time to understand that. Again, you can send mail and you can testify to it, be deposed that you sent it on a certain date. There are ways you can utilize the postal service where you can, in fact, serve your own process on people and issue the certificate of service. All these elements are important. They're quintessential for establishing the facts of due process of law. So like on the side of the road when you're accosted by an officer, okay, he can either be the process server or the witness, but he damn sure can't be both. And he can't be the injured party because he's an agent and agency that's insured and he's being paid for what he's doing, which is extortion on the side of the road, which is a violation of Title 18, 1661. That's piracy on the highways, on the land, piracy ashore. That's a treasonous act. The penalty for that is death by hanging. And it's time we start swinging these motherfuckers, all right?
Yep.
It's time.
USC 1859, I think, 1589 maybe. But
yeah, and see, again, we're using code, so we're kind of falling back into their jurisdiction. But what we're saying is, aren't your laws the same as my father's? Huh? Isn't that what Jesus said? Aren't your laws the same as my father's? Or are you guys hypocrites? Thou shalt not murder, right? And they're like, well, we really can't argue a statute that says that. Yeah. So when your laws are the same as my father's, the letter of the law and the spirit of the law come together. I agree with a legal society. However, when you guys use a manipulation of language and a twisting of the words, which is unbecoming of any judge or man on this earth, in order to manipulate the situation to benefit yourself and unjustly enrich yourself under an artifice and a scheme using a false conveyance of language, fuck you. Your ass belongs to me. You want to fuck people? I'm going to turn around and ruin your life.
Isaiah 54, verse 17, no tongue shall prosper against you. Ye shall rise up against anybody that places judgment against you.
That's right.
The inheritance of the servants of their Lord, and the righteousness is of the Lord.
And that's the thing. A lot of people go, well, Derrick, you're so hostile. That's righteous anger. And everybody is vindicated in that. Let me tell you something. The shit show has gone on long enough. Enough is enough. These people ought to be bent over the bar, their bare ass exposed, and spanked. And I'm talking with a piece of oak that was carved in wood shop from Dazed and Confused, baby. They need spanked. They need the walk of shame. These people need to learn how to wear humility. Instead, they boast and posture as though they're more intelligent than you, and you just wouldn't understand. And you'll see, the judge will agree with me. Yeah, until I walk in there and put him on judicial notice that I accepted his oath of office and I bind him to it. And if he doesn't protect my unalienable rights to the extent even unto death, I will have him swinging at Guantanamo fucking Bay for unjustly enriching himself, theft by way of false promise, breach of trust, breach of his fiduciary duty. All right? Then you see how quickly the judges change their tune. They're no longer brothers with the Bar Association anymore. They go, fuck, this guy means business.
Yeah, these guys know nothing about righteous anger, though, because they're stuck in their fear. They don't even know how to get angry except in a closet where they cry to themselves.
Right.
And that's not true anger. That's pity.
Right. Yeah. At some point, you got to find your testicles, whether proverbial or otherwise, or chesticles, whatever the fuck you guys want to use, and you got to stand up and sound off like God affair. The Heavenly Father gave me the voice of a fucking lion, and it would be an utter disgrace not to use it. And I use it every time I'm in a court. I roar like a lion because I am here for what is true, correct, accurate, and not misleading. And if you motherfuckers aren't here for the same thing, then I will bring the hand of the Father swift upon that ass. All right?
Amen.
I will lay your inequities at his feet, and I will let him deal with you. And the quicker we get you there, the quicker this can be resolved. So let's just get you to Guantanamo and send you to the pearly gates. We'll find out whether or not you was true, accurate, and correct in your life, and not misleading, and not manipulating the language to take advantage of your brothers and sisters, bearing false witness, committing crimes.
Yeah.
Okay? It's a thing called misprision of a felony. When I inform an official of a crime afoot by one of their agents and they stand idly by, they become an accessory.
Felony.
That's a misprision of a felony. They bear the primary active degree of fault for their dereliction of duty and failure to transfer that information higher up the chain if they didn't know what to do with it. They become the liable party.
Yep. Holder of the instrument is liable on the instrument.
Yeah, we're always going up the chain of command because shit rolls uphill in their industry. It defies gravity. It's not like plumbing. Shit rolls downhill in plumbing. In their industry, shit rolls uphill.
People don't understand that yet. One of these days,
they're starting to get it. But the dangers that we have now is we have agents and agency from foreign countries operating on our soil, policing American people under private policies, city ordinances,
which
statutes,
brings up this thing about the UN
army standing on our soil, and we shall not tolerate that at all.
Which brings up this thing about the UN over in Utah. What do you think about that?
I've said it from the very beginning. As soon as I figured it out, my grandfather would have been an armed.
Yeah, he'd have been there standing there with a rifle against him.
World War II, Vietnam guys, they're all but gone at this point. And, you know, that is a clear act of war, period. Yep. End of story. Yep. And people need to understand the history. There's a difference between the United States and the United States of America. There's a difference between a republic and a democracy. A democracy is a bunch of heathens, lying, looting, pandering pieces of shit trying to convince you that the majority rules over you and you will do what they say. Well, I say, fuck you, here's to me. Bring it, motherfucker. And you better bring your majority, too, because I got something for them, too. And you'll quickly find out the majority won't stand behind these people. You got about 540-some people in Congress that don't even fill the true seats in office of Congress. There's a quo warranto out there right now. I think they got like 60 days to respond to it or 30 days to respond to it. Nobody's responded to it yet. They're all derelict in their duty. They're all malfeasers in office, okay? And none of them have authority to do any fucking thing.
Yeah, you would think that somebody would act on it with 540, but nobody responding is the issue.
But that's acquiescence by tacit agreement. Their silence is admission by omission, and we'll accept that. And now it's time to fucking build the gallows.
It's also a collusion.
You know, they were supposed to enforce the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, and the Clean Food Act. You know, there's like 140 different nations that will not accept our food grown on this land because it's GMO, genetically modified material, and they will not allow their people to ingest it because it has carcinogens in it. It's full of cancer. It shortens your life expectancy. It dumbs people down, causes brain fog, and the neurons not to fire properly, and the receptors not to work. And yet we consume it. They're violating the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act. They're violating the Clean Food Act. They're violating everything. They're spraying aerosols in our sky. They're doing it blatantly in our face, going, fuck you, what are you going to do about it? And it's time that people pull together and go, we're going to show you what we're going to do about it. We're going to euthanize you fuckers. We're going to get rid of you. This ideology. Look, if I've got a TED talk and told people that I'm going to depopulate the population by 1/3 by 2030, like Bill Gates did, I'd be in fucking prison for terroristic threats.
Yep.
I'd be in prison for practicing genocide.
Real quick. Lori, I'm glad you're enjoying this. And real quick, back to Lori's question. Are you still in communication with Robert Michaels?
I haven't talked to Robert Michaels for a long time. He's a good man, and
he's still got his channel
very young in this game. What's that?
He's still got his channel going, but he just doesn't post a whole lot.
I believe so. You know, and I learned a long time ago. Instead of bashing one another who are trying to ascend of the mind, I learned a long time ago that I don't know everything there is to know. And there are people out there that are reading and striving to gain knowledge, and they have testimony from firsthand knowledge and experience, much like yourself. And so there are times like, you know, even Kurt Pendergrass and I agree to disagree. And years later, or maybe months later, we'll come together and I'll be like, you know what? I see your point. And when I look at this and I evaluate it, Kirk, you were correct on it. He goes, Derek, I see your point on equity too. I see the difference in the jurisdictions. So it's really unique. When people stop bashing each other and start coming together, realizing we're all working towards the same thing, an ascension of the mind to get back to what we once were. And what we once were was something so great, every country in the world.
So instinctual, we didn't need all these books. It was just instinct.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. And the law, let me remind everybody, is so simple that every man is expected to know it. Even a single cell amoeba understands the law. Keep your hands and feet to yourself. Don't touch what doesn't belong to you. Don't take what doesn't belong to you, and ask permission, right? Honor your contracts. And, you know, that's just how it goes. But Keith will be back with us in 1 second here. I can't see the comments, so I apologize.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry.
But yeah, as far as Robert Michaels goes, I've watched him grow for years. He's done a bunch of different things. We've all dabbled in the UCC, the USC. We've dabbled in international law. We've dabbled in treaties. We've dabbled in constitutional law. You know, the list just goes on and on. Maritime admiralty. We've dabbled in ecclesiastical law. We are all ascending of the mind. And the great thing is that all of us are continuing to ascend, which means even when we plateau, you know, Keith will mention something on one of his shows, and I go, oh, thank God for Keith. You know, here I was plateaued, and he has showed me a different way of looking at something. I'm going to go evaluate and assess that. So understand this. When you guys are studying, when you're ascending of the mind, don't get frustrated when you plateau. And understand that drawing conclusions is very detrimental to your growth. When you finally think you've got it all figured out, I can assure you, you don't. Okay? And so take that for what it's worth. When we draw conclusions, it's dangerous because then we think we've got it all figured out and we stop learning, we stop growing, we bar ourselves from our spiritual growth, which is really what they're hiding from us. Our spiritual wealth is what scares the absolute shit out of all these cronies who are trying to oppress you. It scares them that you know that you have the power, because the power to create can never be greater than its creator. And God created man, man created government. All right. There is no man that is above me. I self-govern. I am the republic. All right. Yep. Benjamin Franklin came out and one gal said, "What did you give us?" And he said, "I gave you, singularly, a republic if you can keep it." Meaning, if you are sane, sound mind, age of majority, and competent to handle your affairs over all men, you yourself can create and dictate and govern yourself and are not beholden to the democracy, quote unquote.
Yeah. See,
so the choice is yours.
Yeah. See, a lot of people think this republic government is a seat of government. No, there is, in a republic, everybody governs themselves, and there's a governing body that is allowed to govern those that can't govern themselves, and that is the democratic structure. But it should always be governed outwardly by the Republican people that are obviously giving that government power to take care of their own people.
Well, what I think is so funny about it is, I would say 95% of the people in America are good by nature.
Yes.
And yet they vote for people who are part of criminal syndicate organizations, moving scrupulous amounts of drugs, trafficking children, and everything else. And they vote for these people to control their lives. And these people are some of the most sinister, nasty, filthy people I've ever seen.
That's why I have no problem with sending these people to the gallows. It gives the slaves more people to vote in that might take a second look at what they're stepping into when they go into these public offices.
Right. You know, to fill an office is a great honor, and it should come with grand repercussions should you violate the trust of the people. And the most extensive thing I can think of is hanging. And look, in all of the history of America, how many people have actually been charged with treason? Although all of them who have essentially filled the office have engaged in it at one point or another, and almost zero convictions exist of anybody ever being successfully tried for treason, which just blows my mind. You mean to tell me that all of these people in government are free from sin? They haven't breached their oath. They haven't violated the law in any way, shape, or form that would compromise the office. Get the fuck out of here. If you believe that, I got some oceanfront property in the middle of Nebraska to sell you. These people are criminals. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And the WEF, the World Economic Forum, that's another thing. Who voted for these jackasses to make decisions for the world? Fuck you. Fuck off. All right? You don't own me. You don't control me. Nobody's elected. You guys just put yourself in a position because you control the news media and give people the impression that you control the world. Come get some, motherfucker. Come get some. That's how I feel about it. And I think most Americans feel that way. They just don't know how to do anything about it. And so it's so important that we keep open the intellect and the dialect on channels much like yourself, Keith. I really appreciate what you do. I appreciate what Robert Michaels does. I appreciate what everybody is doing. I mean, it's fantastic that we're keeping people thinking, at least, and other people are starting to go, you know what, the way they speak, I can't argue with them. I might not agree with 90%. I might not agree with everything they say, but I agree with 90% of it. That's sound doctrine, logic, and reason being applied, right? And that's what you really need. The basic concepts for law is sound doctrines and principles. When I say keep your hands and feet to yourself, it's unanimous. Everybody goes, yeah, that just goes without saying. Well, you would think so, but in 2023, you actually have to fucking tell people, do not fucking touch me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and it just amazes me that people are that fucking dumb.
That's another one of the biggest problems people have is their principles. They think they're guided by these principles, and they want to say that they're Christian or they're spiritual in this sense, but yet they fall victim to that personage all the time. They're still carrying that license. They're still carrying that ID.
Sure.
They're still contracting unwittingly, unknown.
Right. And they don't realize they've been goaded into contracting. And there's two aspects. There's trust law and there's contract law. So if you're claiming and alleging to have authority over me, where's the contract? Where's the quid pro quo? When did we agree to this? Where's my wedding signature? Otherwise, you can fuck off.
Right.
You're creating a trespass trying to lord over me, and I am free. Free meaning free from the legal constraints of another, absent a crime, absent a contract.
Right. And when you get involved in a contract of any sort, you're contracting with another trustee, meaning that you are now in the capacity of a trustee. Whereas before, you're always known as a benefactor.
Well, there's expected performance. In a contract, there's expected performance on both ends. Otherwise, there's no value and consideration. The contract is null and void from the inception, in ab initio. If there's not value and consideration on both ends, then what you have actually created is a trust. If I give you something of value and you give me no consideration in return, well, then you're holding my property as a trustee. Okay, that's how that works. So in 1933, when they took the gold and silver out of the economy, the abrogation of the gold clause, people hang their hat on the gold clause. I'm going to tell you, it's much more than that. They failed to read on where it said, and they will mortgage everything. Well, a mortgage is a trust. And when they're mortgaging the property, and all the property is vested in the state by virtue of the government, well, guess what? They all just became trustees. That's how you express the trust. All right? That's why when people say, well, I'm the owner. No, you're not. You're the tenant. No, you're not. You're merely using it. But the owner bears the liability and responsibility for the water heating being maintained, the roof being put on, the foundation being fixed. So is there a benefit for us not owning anything? Sure there is. Now we just have to get our trustees to do the right thing and maintain everything like they're supposed to when we put the work order in. That's why when people try to evict other people, I think it's funny because he says, well, I'm the landlord, I'm the owner. Okay, bring in your certificate of title, which is a color of title, and go ahead and bring in that warranty deed, grant deed, joint tenancy deed, whatever the fuck you got, trust deed, bring it in. Right there when it says tenant, okay, I'm going to tell you right now, you don't have the authority to evict anybody. Because the federal government has a super top secret lien on all real estate and property. Who's the real party in interest that's actually evicting me? It better be the fucking federal state government, the federal government. Federal government agencies, you can fuck off. You're not an owner. You don't have standing.
Federal government under 5 CFR 575.102. Federal government means all entities of the government of the United States, get this, including the United States Postal Service, who is the registered agent,
and the United States Service is
commission.
Right. And the United States Postal Service is different than the United States Post Office. Power to create is never greater than the creator. The United States Post Office still exists, ladies and gentlemen. The United States Postmaster wears 7 different hats, fills 7 different roles. Some of them in the General Post, some of them in the General Post Office, some of them in the United States Postal Service. Postal Service is a commercial venue created by after the Act of 1871, the Reorganization Act, part of a corporation, part of a corporate charter.
And the diplomatic post is the supreme post.
Yep. I love it, Keith. I love it. So the important thing is to understand that diligence, hard work, a little bit of discipline goes a long ways. And you can stand up and say, fuck you too. Don't be scared. And the more people that you get in your community that are starting to see this shit going, you know what, you're right. If we don't do something, look, it goes without saying, if something isn't done in the near future, those chains that were once worn will be placed upon your offspring real soon. Yep.
And Dean Phillips makes a interesting comment. I was going to speak about it earlier when we were talking about that Fourth Amendment violation. It's also a Fifth Amendment violation under the Takings Clause. Whether it's intellectual property, right. Otherwise it's private property, and no one has the right to take your private property.
It's a violation of the Eighth Amendment too. It's called cruel and unusual punishment. Forced labor. It's the very criteria of cruel and unusual punishment.
Yep.
And who are they to be the judge, jury, and executioner on the side of the road? When did they become king of fucking Zamunda? Doesn't work that way, guys. And real Americans who study know this shit. And let me tell you something. The agents and organizations tremble when they come across people like myself, Keith, Dean. Dean's had a couple run-ins with them. In some instances, he prevailed. In all instances, he prevailed. And let me tell you this: even when I fail, I prevail. You want to know why? Because I ascended the mind and I learned. I didn't get this efficient at doing what I do without failing. I failed a lot, but I did it with pizzazz. I did it with a lot of bravado. Like when I tell judges to go fuck themselves, I literally say, fuck you. You can go fuck yourself.
Yep. And see,
I'm very blunt because this country wasn't founded by a bunch of fucking pussies. It's founded by a bunch of really badasses tired of taking shit from fucking tyrants. They gave their life. They gave their freedom. Their wives were murdered and raped. Their kids were murdered. Their offspring were murdered. Their farms were burnt, pillaged. Many of the founding fathers that signed documents to pledge their peace, their posterity, and their sacred honor were murdered, guys. They gave it all up. And most of them were very, very wealthy men that could have stayed underneath the king and would have been just fine for the rest of their lives living cushy fucking lifestyles. And they chose to say, oh, you know what? Fuck it. There's something greater in this life than materialistic possessions. There's this thing called freedom, and we want it. And they got a small taste of it, and they realize that's all we want.
And they
I'm not
took
saying
advantage
the
of
founding fathers were good men by any way, means, or shape, or form. Look, they were all adolescents at one point. They did stupid shit. Everybody does. I'm not saying they were holier than thou. Some of them had slaves. Some of them raped people. Some of them did heinous fucking acts. But one thing I know about being a man is as you grow, as you experience life, as you ascend into the mind, your viewpoints change. You realize the error in your ways. You make those corrections to become a virtuous man. You know, I might be a righteous man today. 20 years ago, I wasn't so honorable, right?
Yeah,
I was a young adolescent trying to figure out who I am, what I am, and get out there and make a name for myself, right? And thankfully, I had a great community and good folks and people that surrounded me that helped me become better than I was the day before. And now every day I wake up with the guidance of the Heavenly Father, you know, reaching into my heart and my soul, showing me this is what you are here for. This is what you're here for.
Yep.
See the truth, speak the truth, be true, correct, accurate, not misleading, and help them. Help them see the way, the path, the light. It really is that simple.
So many layers and unpeeling. Many become discouraged. Please never give up, no matter how long it takes. And it's that unpeeling of the layers of that onion when you get to a point that you wake up and realize ain't no one else going to do this but you.
That's right.
That's your self-empowerment and realization of being able to say, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know that's only me. I can't change the world, but I can change me, and that will help others in the world change according to my actions that are profitable unto good and profitable unto men.
Very true. And then there's power in numbers too. So when you're going to go against tyrannical people, take some fucking friends, and you'll find out really quickly who loves you and who cares about you, because they will go with you. They might not agree with what you're doing, but they're going to say, you know what? I'm going to go and listen. I'm going to go and observe. And the thing that scares tyrants more than anything is witnesses. Holy fuck, if you've got a couple fucking witnesses, they will fucking scurry like rats. You ain't got no witnesses? Bailiff, back his BB, throw him in a fucking cage for 6 weeks. We'll say he was unruly. You got some witnesses? They conduct themselves a whole lot different.
Matthew 18 verses 15 through 20, people. When you go to that public venue with 2 or more witnesses, that's what he's talking about. Tell him about the time you walked in with about 75 people in there.
Oh, it was amazing. Yeah. They scheduled me for 4:00 in the afternoon, and I walked in there, and there were 75 people, and that judge came out and put her head to the ground, and I know in my heart she was thinking, who the fuck is this guy? These people left work early, showered, shaved, clean cut, in their Sunday best, and came in. Now, some of them were there to watch the carnage. Some of them, like going to NASCAR. You don't go to NASCAR to watch somebody go 400 laps successfully. You're there for the wreck. There were people in that group out of the 75 that were there to see me tased, pepper sprayed, and beaten. They know I'm a cocky motherfucker, and I will talk however the fuck I feel, and I will tell you to kiss my ass and lick my taint, you lint-licking motherfuckers. They know that I'm that way, and ain't nobody going to tell me otherwise. I don't care if you wear a fucking dress and sit on a fucking bench and alleged to be a judge. I care not what the fuck your title of nobility is. I will speak how the fuck I want to speak. And if you don't like my mouth, quit inviting me to your bullshit fucking meetings, because I call shit like I see it. So there were people, I guarantee you, that were there just to watch me get whacked and packed. And it never happened, and they were all astonished. There were also 9 undercover state troopers there that day. The deputy sheriff pulled me out in the hall later on, and he said, dude, I don't know what you did or who you called or who you're working with, but he goes, you had more undercover cops in this courtroom than O.J. Simpson had at his fucking murder trial. We were all in the back room laughing about how many undercover cops were here at the sheriff's department by order of the governor. And so there's power in that. And yeah, I call the governors up. You motherfuckers better have some witnesses down there to tell you what. If you don't come clearing up this tyranny, cleaning up after me is going to be a fucking nightmare. That's not a threat, it's a promise. Now get your asses down here and bear witness to this fucking blatant tyranny happening. Because I'll tell you right now, the administrative law clerks, they're not fucking voted in. They're appointed. They're appointed. And they ain't anointed, let me tell you. They're not there by the grace of the Heavenly Father. Some dipshit decided to put them there. All right? Your vote didn't matter. A voter isn't shit. An elector is where the power is at. They perverted the language and converted you from an elector to a voter. A voter means you don't have any property. You don't have property, you don't have rights. Without rights, you don't have property. Without property, you don't have rights. All right? So, very important to comprehend these things. And they have to walk a fine line because of their scheme, their scam, and their artifice. You know, I love it when a judge says, Constitution doesn't apply here. I'll be right back. I'm going to get my horse with a saddle, a nice saddle horn, and a good fucking rope. Stay right there, motherfucker. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to hang your ass. You done said enough for me to fucking hang you. We don't even need a trial. Your words convicted you. Your for the law is hangable. And we're going to hang it today. They get scared. Oh, you're going to threaten a public official? You go, oh, you made a statement. You claim to be a public official. Now you got to prove it, motherfucker. And they can't. They can't prove that they fill the fucking seat. So how are you going to try me for threatening a public official when you can't prove you actually have a valid oath of office? Fuck you. They get nervous to see that kind of bravado.
Yeah, well, it's the blatant truth that people are dismissing, like the people that are in that courtroom waiting for that wreck. They're dismissing it until they actually have that firsthand experience. And, you know, that's why I say, you know, you sit there on your fucking couch watching somebody else's magnificent life on a boob tube because yours is so great, while you munch down all them fucking chips and drink all that poison. All of a sudden, here comes the lights and sirens. So you peek your head out, you look out, and there's somebody 2 blocks down the street. So what do? You do the same thing you always do. You go back to your couch watching somebody else.
You don't go down to make sure that your neighbor isn't being assaulted by foreign agents on your land because you're next. That's what most people don't realize. You're next. You're the next target. When they don't agree with what you say, when you don't go along with their agenda, guess what? You're next. And guess what your neighbor's going to do? When you watched him get arrested, guess what he's going to do? Well, come down here and help me. Fuck Agnes. I'm going to sit here on my couch. Good luck, Agnes. I tried to warn you. So it's time to pull together. It's time to say enough's enough. It's time to get a hold of the sheriff and grab him by the short and curlies and go, listen here, short dick. You are either going to uphold the law or we are going to fucking remove you. All right? And you're going to pay back all the wherewithal you've ever made while filling office because you took your income under false pretenses, which is theft by honest services fraud. And you're going to pay it all back. You can disqualify a cop with one question. Every law enforcement agent, you can almost disqualify with this one question. How many elements are in the First Amendment? If they can't answer it, then what the fuck did they take an oath to? They don't even know the first paragraph of the first fucking amendment. What did they take an oath to? How do you make a promise for life and you can't even articulate the first fucking paragraph? Fuck out of here, tyrant.
Exactly. You know, that's why I say, you know, I'm you're going in classes next week and you got pulled over yesterday. By the way, belated happy birthday.
Thank you.
You're a great man, and I know the birthday itself isn't what matters. Every day is his, and that's what matters.
Amen to that. Absolutely.
This class that's coming up on the 24th, you got pulled over on your day of nativity, and they gave you 2 tickets, and you're going to go in there privately to the clerk without any court public anything. You're going to give them a private notice for her or him and the magistrate and the DA, correct?
You're correct. And I'm also going to do it in physical form, present, orally as well. And remember, once you execute this process and they fail to respond, they've denied you due process of law. If they even had jurisdiction, which they never do in most instances, if they even had jurisdiction, even if they caught me with a bloody knife in my hand at a murder scene, and I'm going to show you guys what I'm about to execute, even if they had jurisdiction, if they failed to comply with the law, they lost it. No matter if they had it to begin with, and they are not trained for what I am about to execute upon them. And I know this because I've done it in 15 different states, and we've prevailed not some of the time, not part of the time, every fucking time.
And that violation is the violation of due process right at the start.
Bingo. Nailed it.
In public. Matthew 18, verse 15 says you're supposed to go to your brother in private if you have issue with him, not in public. Why? Because if they're operating in trust and they're putting forth a contract, it must be privy, not
right.
Public.
Full disclosure must be had. That's due process of law. It must be mutually agreeable. It must be mutually beneficial for all parties involved. It must not contain any false, misleading, or deceptive trade practices, and it must not contain any false, misleading, and deceptive language. Period. End of story. All right?
Deceptive language is what? Titles? Are titles of nobility and stuff deceptive language?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm the king of fucking Zamunda, if you'll believe it.
You would be interested to know I can ask them one question and defeat every piece of paper they've got.
Absolutely.
Under etymology, did you know, brother, comment means literally it's an invention, fabrication, or fiction?
English is a form of art. It's not even a language.
So even if he comes in as first-person commenter, it's still invention, fabrication, and fiction by the definition of the origin, the spirit of the word.
Right. Yep.
So, you know, that person is why he does.
There's so many angles to attack criminality. There's so many angles to destroy their artifices and their schemes, ladies and gentlemen, that it's easy now. Before, I struggled a lot because the judge would say something and then my silence would be acquiescence, and I would essentially create an oral agreement right there on the record in the court. That's why it's dangerous to go into the courtroom. Instead, handle your affairs privately on paper. Then if there's a miscommunication in the way the language is written, we can get clarification on it, right? But if you're in a court, you have to be very witty. You have to be a stunning cunt, let me tell you. And I enjoy doing that shit. And but I wouldn't advise other people to it.
No,
I like to have like those Garland moments and spank the shit out of people who allege to be intelligent that are really dumber than a sack of shit.
Yep. And that's why I say, you know, I'm hoping to push your class on the 24th because you're going to be putting forth some ideas for paperwork in that process.
I'm going to be showing remedy after remedy after remedy. I can end this case with one question. One question ends it all. I have a secondary question that would end it all as well that I could use as a primary question. I have remedies that are statutory. I have remedies that are from the common law. I have equitable remedies. I have equitable right of estoppels. I have all kinds of stuff I could throw at this. And I'm going to show you guys how to do it because it's fucking simple. And the thing is, what I found in the past, speaking of my own experiences, is I was very emotional in the past. I'm not emotional anymore. There's no emotion. This is what happened. This is the fact. Now explain yourself, Lucy. I'll put the onus of probandi back on them. I merely articulate the fact of what transpired, and then I ask the questions. And the questions are what fucking destroy them.
Yep. It's not the comments and statements.
It's the questions
that draw out their answers.
Validate your for your action. Validate it. And you better hope that you can sell it to a jury at 12, because I can convince a jury at 12 very easily using sound doctrines and principles. I will fucking destroy your lying, looting, pandering piece of shit ass. Starting with the fact of all parties haven't been properly identified. How about this? Where's the real party in interest that's come before this court stating a harm, damage, injury, or loss, independently bonding this claim as is required by law? Where is he?
And the primary party in interest is always the United States under 50 USC 4305, trading with the enemy, because that's who you're supposed to place the interest in order for them to fulfill the obligation of discharging and full acquittance. Now, the discharge,
because you're a preferred stockholder.
Right. The discharge, people think is a discharge of the cost or the fee. No, the discharge is a discharge of duty.
Right. The obligation. They inherited all the obligations, every obligation. And when you read the Trading with the Enemy Act, it's very clear. Even contracts, the alien property custodian holder needs to be informed of every contract you've ever entered into, so he can vet who you're doing business with, make sure they're not an enemy of the United States, an enemy belligerent combatant, or a friend or an ally of an enemy. And people just don't realize that. Put their fucking asses to work. They're trustees. 63 Charlie, Am Jurisprudence, 2D. All public officials are trustees of the American fucking people. End of fucking story. End of story. And anybody that wants to abscond from their duty, to the fucking gallows you go. Guantanamo, motherfucker. Guantanamo. We didn't spend $200 million revamping Guantanamo not to use it.
Yep, needs to be filled up.
Yep. And people that are relying on the DOD and the Department of Justice to do it for them, they're not going to. We need to pull together and do it ourselves.
Sunshine is asking what time zone on the 24th. It is Central Time Zone, 12 p.m. noon, correct?
No, it'd be 12 p.m. Eastern time.
Oh, Eastern. Oh, you're over.
So it'd be 11 o'clock Central time, if my calculations are correct. I think we're only an hour behind Central time, or ahead of Central time at this point.
Yeah, where are you at then?
Right now I'm on the East Coast. I'm out here in Indiana.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So I was going to be in Arizona, but I've still got some other things to do before I go back down there, because I got some hell to raise down there as well. You know. But the
can't get into heaven unless you raise a little hell, huh?
Well, absolutely. That's what I was put on this earth for. That's why I was given such broad shoulders and a competent mind to handle all my affairs over all men, is to stand against the blatant tyranny, to do the good works of our Father. That's what we're all here to do. We're all here to love thy neighbor, take care of one another, make sure that our communities are doing well, that our food is clean, that our water is clean, that our air is clean, that our fruits of our labor may be enjoyed by all, right? Because they're gifts from the Heavenly Father.
Yeah, there should be no homeless. There should be no orphan children. There shouldn't be any.
That's right. Banks are the biggest fucking scam ever contrived against the people of the world. They're a scam. They never have any skin in the game. They didn't lose a fucking thing. They used manipulation of language with a bunch of lying, looting, pander, piece of shit lawyers to unjustly enrich themselves and live higher on the hog than the rest of the people. Well, the only calluses they got on their hands are from beating their wife and jerking off. They don't know what a hard day's work is if it fucking hit them in the face. That's the honest to God's truth. Yeah,
they're like Derrick said earlier, and Dean's confirming again. One of the issues is that even if you're in one of these rental units, they still have a maintenance duty to leave utilities and waters on no matter what. It doesn't care. It shouldn't matter whether that bill's paid or not.
Utilities.
The ultimate eminent domain is for the interest of the public.
Right.
And if you're not part of that fucking public, then what the fuck are they doing?
If you're not engaged in commerce and you're consuming the electricity for private household use, then they're not supposed to be charging you, because we have dominion over all the minerals, all the land, all the water, all the energy belongs to we, the people of the world. That's the covenant granted to us by the Heavenly Father. He didn't say, and I grant to all the governments and corporations everything, and the people shall be subservient. In one aspect, he kind of did say that at one point, but I'll tell you this. He said, you are to respect a God-fearing government. And I've never seen a God-fearing government in my life. Furthermore, I don't think a God-fearing government ever existed, if not for Solomon himself.
Yeah, Romans 13:1. There is no power but that which is ordained of God. And if they don't have the power that's ordained of God, then they don't have any enforcement of any powers.
That's right. We are gods to government. We created them, which means they are subservient to us, period. We created them to settle in differences when we ourselves couldn't handle ourselves privately, right?
Correct.
We say, okay, well, Keith and I can't agree on this subject matter. We agree to disagree. There's no need to go bear arms and pace 20 paces because there's nothing worth dying over here. But we do need some resolve here. We need an arbiter. We need somebody to come in here and execute this arbitration for us and tell us where we may have erred in our ways and find remedy. That's it. That's all government was created for. Congress was never authorized to create laws that bind me as a man. Period.
Exactly.
End of
Only
fucking story.
Only things that which can be taxed, and that's contracts, taxes, duties.
That's commerce. And then there's private trade, and private commercial trade is what I kind of assimilate it to so people can understand that the concept. What Keith and I do privately is not taxable. That's an even exchange and fair fucking trade. Me working for a corporation is an even exchange and fair trade. There's no tax liability on my end. The tax liability comes on the corporation's end because the corporation may be paying me $50 an hour. That's what we agreed to. That's an even exchange and fair trade for my time, what I value it at. But the corporation's charging $150 an hour for my man hour of labor. They're the ones with the tax liability. That's considered an income, ladies and gentlemen, and people just don't get it. I preach it all day long. I show people how it works, and I go, that just doesn't make sense. So far be it from me to explain the law to you. Go read it for yourself.
And another disturbing factor is a lot of these larger corporations will put life insurance policies out on their employees. Mm-hmm. So even after you're done working for them, that life insurance policy is still active. And even after you die, guess what? They get the life insurance.
Yeah, policy. They claim to be the beneficiary. And really, when you gave them that contract, when you entered into an agreement with them, they had power of attorney to do those things. They call it presumed power of attorney. Whether you gave them power of attorney or not, they presume to have it.
Yes. The legal fiction is a presumption of the facts put before the court. It is not actual facts. It is a presumption of facts.
And because they use your private intellectual property to do so, guess what? If you can express the trust, then there's a full reconciliation of all accounting, and all rights, titles, and interests must be fully restored. A restoration of all my rights, titles, interests, dividends, derivatives, debentures, hediments, general tangibles, general intangibles, trust residuals, trust residue, rents, profits, and proceeds shall immediately henceforth commence to I, the beneficiary. Period.
That means every time you use your name, there's a copyright royalty on it.
There's a common law copyright. You have a common law service mark. And the thing is just being able to stand up and sound off like you got a pair and express the trust. It's so important to be able to express it. I gave them something of value. They gave me nothing in return. That creates a trust. They have my value. I need it returned. If they invested my value in something, I have a right to the full accounting of whatever they invested my value into. Now I need the dividends and derivatives of it. Bring them home to Papa.
And that's under that takings clause again. If they're going to take any private property, whether it be information or physical property, they have to compensate you.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So class is going to be, it might be a multifaceted class at this point. I just can't believe I got blessed by the Heavenly Father with having that guy pull me over. I was just fucking gleaning. I was just laughing.
It was amazing.
I was smiling and laughing. He came up, and I know his whole demeanor changed. I watched his shoulders drop as he realized I wasn't nervous as a whore in the church. He was like, "Oh shit." What
I noticed you made a point about he was a Haitian, and I wanted to. So I made a point of that before you hopped on that. The thing about the Haitian is that it brings up the issue that no matter what interaction you're in, every incident is an international incident.
Sure. Yeah, because they're foreign. They're all foreign. Banks are all foreign. The only people we're supposed to be doing business with actually is the United States Treasury, which is the People's Bank. It's our bank. And now you just have to express how you have special drawing rights.
The drawing,
Well,
right?
that's that birth certificate right here, which is a certificate, which is a value, which proves that I'm the preferred stockholder. I'm the holder in due course, baby. I'm preferred stock. I'm not general stock. I'm preferred, baby.
Yep. And that means I'm the maker, which means I get to draw on it. So I flip
Right.
it over and I draw in colorful language, just what you want me to write, so
Yep.
that everything's correct on the record. That means
I
all
had
that residual comes right back to me.
I had a friend recently that the judge ordered him to give him $1,000. So what do? He whips out a piece of paper. He says, "I grant to this court $1,000." And he goes, "Bailiff, hand this to the judge." And the judge goes, "What's this?" He goes, $1,000. Have a good day." And he walked out. Never heard another fucking thing about it. Never heard another thing about it. People go, "That's just crazy. You know what he wanted." I go, "No, no, no, no. He created
That's
an
what he said.
impossibility. He couldn't be specific about the species he wanted, and he got exactly what he asked for, $1,000." He goes, "Okay, here you go, $1,000. Here you go, bailiff. Give it to him."
I tell you about the medical association around here. They got on my companion a couple years back and demanded that she make payments on all these accounts, or whether otherwise they were going to discontinue their services. So I stepped in and said, "I'm her trustee in life, and I'm responsible for this, so I'm going to require a true bill." So they all got together and sent me a true bill. Funny thing was, there was no dollar sign and no mention of dollars. There was no plus signs, minus signs, nothing. And so I just said, "Am I gladly accepted for the value of zero?" Because it looks like an insane mathematical equation that I have no idea how to figure out.
That's right. They create an impossibility. They need you to presume and assume what they're asking for, and you'll make an offer and they'll accept that offer. That's offer and acceptance. You can offer them 1,000 fucking pieces of toilet paper. They may accept it, they may not. Remember this: an offer tendering on payment made and refused liberates the debtor, if there ever was a debtor. Fuck you, here's to me. You don't like what I have to offer you? Who says that I'm bound by law to use Federal Reserve notes? Where's the law written that I have to use Federal Reserve notes? And furthermore, whose intellectual property is that?
Well, not only that, but furthermore, 12 U.S.C. 411 explains that I'm not supposed to use Federal Reserve notes.
That's right.
They are for the exchange, for as a transfer, and a
bank-to-bank transfers. That's right.
Advancement from one Federal Reserve bank to another by a transfer agent.
And the most important languages in that is for no other purpose, found in the 73rd Congress, Volume 77, Book 1, baby.
Yep.
For no other purpose. Period. End of story. So I love asking judges sitting on the bench, "Oh, I have no problem complying if you can just tell me what species." And he's like, fuck, it's one of those guys. And provided that it doesn't violate Article 1, Section 10 of the federal Constitution, which you're bound by. And also I'll go into the state constitution, whatever state I'm in, and I'll find the same thing in Article 1, Section 10, which clearly states that no debt can be paid in any state other than by way of gold or silver. Period.
Yep.
So then they have to tell me where I can get the gold. Where can I get the gold and silver? Who's got it? Is it the Lloyd's of London that has my shit? Fuck. Order it up, Doc. Bring it in.
You hit that one on the head. Lloyd's in London.
Yep. So it's fun when you become learned. Just don't, I understand people go through trying times and scourge, but understand the good Lord doesn't put you in that position because you can't handle it.
Yep.
We learn from our trials and tribulations. We ascend to the mind. It builds characters through struggles and adversity. We triumph and we overcome, and we are able to teach our offspring perseverance. All right. So I understand that everybody's going through their trials and tribulations. I know that people are hurting. Okay. The good Lord never said that none of us would be spared from suffering. All right. Even the most righteous will suffer. It happens. That's part of life. Just like in order to succeed, you must fail. And believe me, when I say this, I welcome failure because I'm open-minded and realize that failure is the very process to success. Yes. I didn't get this way overnight, and I certainly don't have all the answers, ladies and gentlemen. What I do know is I stand true, correct, and accurate, providing information that is not misleading to the best of my ability to help my fellow brothers and sisters ascend to the mind so we can actually do something great for the next generation to come.
Yep.
And we got to bestow that on our fellow brothers and sisters, and we are charged with that duty. You are charged with that duty.
And my brother admits being a bull in a china shop sometimes, but I'm going to tell you that that's job security for those making china, because what he's doing on the other side is more righteous than any China's worth. So think about that, and please understand the righteous anger that was mentioned earlier. There's a reason for standing up. It's because people keep pushing you down.
It's because freedom's on the line. If we don't do something very soon, I mean, we just witnessed all the governments of the world participate in mass genocide. In the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to see people dropping like fucking flies.
Yep.
It's already happening. 10-year-olds having brain aneurysms and heart attacks and shit at a phenomenal rate.
Yeah, and it's gonna take time, and people are gonna have to live with that. Those that didn't get the vaccine, those that did get the vaccine and somehow managed to survive it. There's all kinds of things that, and don't make that. I don't mean that to sound like the vaccine's actually doing anything, because it really doesn't, in one sense that they speak of, but it does in another sense. So it's a chemical reaction to each individual. And so in doing that, though, this isn't going to be something that people are going to put off and throw over the government or any kind of medical society, or just quit taking vaccines. People are still going to continue taking vaccines. People are going to still want to suffer. And so those that are standing up are still going to have to be putting their foot down and saying, no, we got to quit this. It's going to take time. It's been 8,000 years, folks. It's not going to happen overnight.
Well, the thing is, we don't have much time left, Keith. It's time for people to drop their cock and grab their socks. It's time to rock. It's time to do something. The DOD isn't going to do it. The DOJ isn't doing it. The Secret Service isn't doing it. Your beloved fucking Biden ain't doing it. Donald Trump, your great white hope, ain't going to fucking save your ass. You need to stand up and sound off like you got a prayer. You need to go to your city board meetings and tell them enough is enough. Here's the corporate charter for the police department. Says they're supposed to be bound by the Indiana state constitution. Says that they are not to accost me against my will, absent a warrant, absent a fucking crime. And these motherfuckers just pulled me over for a statute violation, which is bullshit. And I want all your asses. I want all your information, because you're condoning it. You're condoning it. You're allowing these corporations to unjustly enrich themselves. You're on the take. You're getting profits from it. You're unjustly enriching while causing your fellow brothers and sisters suffering.
And that's that fear.
Fucking alleged crimes. And your asses are all on the fucking hook. You took an oath. And if you got to ask a lying, looting, panner, piece of shit lawyer what that means, then you shouldn't be sitting where you're sitting. Pack your shit and go. That's being nice about it.
Absolutely. Yep.
People don't realize that it's the city boards, the county councils. They're the ones that bear a shit ton of liability because they're allowing it.
Yeah, it's the county commissioner that hires the county attorney. And then they also put before the county a sheriff vote. So he is elected, but then the sheriff's deputies are hired by the district attorney. So they're under contract while the sheriff is elected. The commissioner is a military branch. It's the same as the governor of the state. He's the governor at the county level. He's the commissioner. He's the one that's doing all the military commissioning.
But again, Keith, none of them ever fill proper office.
Correct.
None of them.
It's all done under the contract, as if though the contract is the office, and it's not. The office is in trust. Right.
And equity imputes an intention to fulfill an obligation, and that's why we can send their asses to Guantanamo fucking Bay. And that's what needs to happen. Tell you what, we send 10, 15 people to Guantanamo Bay and the bullshit stops overnight, because everybody will be so scared of being lynched for blatant fucking treason and crimes against humanity and human trafficking and the trafficking of children and the trafficking of babies and profiting from it, that it'll stop overnight, instantaneously. CASA will disappear. CPS will disappear. This shit will stop. But it's a matter of the American people in the community standing up and going, we've had it. That's enough. There was one community in Mexico. The women finally said, you know what? We ain't baking you no fucking pies. You ain't getting no nookie. And we ain't making you no sandwiches for lunch, man. If you don't get out there and get rid of the drug cartel and the politicians and the lawyers and the people that are making our lives hard in this community, you get nothing. Guess what? It took all about 5 fucking minutes for the men to get together and go, that's it, boys. You got to go. I like my cookies, I like my warm apple pie, and I like my nookie. My wife says you got to go. Furthermore, the women of this community said you got to go, so you got to go. See, in Mexico, they figured it out. The government uses women against men to keep men meek. Oh, honey, don't do that. What would I do if I lose you? Oh, honey, don't do that. And the women finally said, we've had enough of you using us against our men. We're now going to tell you that you're going to leave, and we're going to use our men to remove your asses. Yeah. And that's what happened. That's an honest to God's true fucking story. And that community to this day, no drug cartels operate there. They're scared to be there because the women and the men will come out and hang them.
We've been talking about that on some of these other platforms about the males beta cucking and the destruction of the masculine feminine. You know, we've got these women that are being forced to be fathers and mothers because they're single, and then the guys that are out there being cucked by the corporations and child support and all this. You know, it's just
where's the equal protection of the law, Keith? Where's the equal protection of the law?
Exactly.
How am I taxed on that money before it goes into the child support system? And then first they take it from me, then I'm taxed on it. But the woman who receives it isn't taxed. Where's the equal protection of the law?
Yep.
Okay, and I'm not about not supporting your offspring. Well, fuck, please take care of what your responsibility is. But what I'm saying is they don't have a right to tell you how, what, when, where, and why to do it. Period.
Yeah, it's not done through a Title 4D contract through the state. It's done under a covenant.
All marriage licenses are invalid. I can invalidate them in 5 fucking minutes. I can destroy a marriage license for failure to disclose.
Yep.
I did it for my wife. I closed her case in 5 fucking minutes. The judge was, I don't normally practice law from the bench, but this is what you need to do. And I said, I hope to God you got out a pen and piece of paper and wrote down everything he said. The lawyer kept objecting and finally looked at him and said, counselor, shut up. Then he asked him if they needed attorneys because he knew they were fucked. He wasn't going to fucking join them. The paperwork I put together was so devastating. He knew he would be Guantanamo-ed. He wasn't about to fuck up.
Yeah, it wasn't about the prosecutor giving him any jurisdiction because that's the presumption. When you walk into court and you have jurisdiction, the court knows that. The court's not going to go against the jurisdiction.
Yep. Well, you're the only real party in interest. Everybody else is just a poser, a pretender, operating under titles of nobility, using simulated legal process and sham legal pleadings to unjustly enrich themselves. Bada bing, bada boom. I can prove everything I just fucking said there. Everything. Yeah. And all I got to do is ask them the questions and they'll prove it for me. By their silence being acquiescence.
See, and that's what
their
people
their admission by omission. It's beautiful. Once you ascend to the mind, it's so much fun.
Sometimes I think people need to learn how to communicate by asking those questions. The more you learn how to ask questions, the better questions you ask. And I've said this many times. And that's what I'm getting down to. I'm just asking questions.
Yeah.
The guy out here in the funny costume that's chasing down a lady that says she doesn't have a name. And I go out and say she's right. She doesn't have a name. He tells me to mind my own business, go back in my apartment. I come out with the best question there is. Are you tampering with a witness?
Right. Yep.
Matthew 18, verses 15 through 20. I'm sorry, but you're making a public scene over something that's obviously a private issue.
Mm-hmm. And this isn't for the faint of heart. Let me be very clear. Some of us were born warriors. I don't believe that you can cultivate warriors. You either have this in the belly of your soul, you have that fire that burns, or you don't. So this isn't necessarily for everybody, but it doesn't mean you can't support the warriors that are out there. Okay? There is a position and a place for everybody to assist in this journey. Some of us have voices of lions. Others can make a really mean apple fucking pie that helps fuel the belly and the beast. All right. Bring forward your attributes and help. Eyeballs and witnesses and ears. Maybe you're good at writing things down. Maybe your memory is impeccable. Maybe you have great penmanship. Everybody has something to bring to the fucking table. You don't have to be the brilliance of everything. Maybe you just have one unique skill the Heavenly Father blessed you with that you are fucking superb at. Bring it forward. Let that strength be your light that unifies the people around you. Real simple shit. Real simple shit.
Yeah, and that's why I urge people to get on with their talents. That's part of the big destruction of the family is we then turn around and send our little children to the public education system. And that's destroying their talents. They're supposed the first 21 years of our life, we're supposed to spend 3 cycles of our talents, learning what our talent is, enhancing the talent, practicing the talent so that when we become that adult, we can use that talent appropriately, according to the parable of the talents, and going forth and giving 5 talents, coming back with 10.
Right.
There's no other way that we're capable of doing that without our own true talents. Otherwise, we're using somebody else's. And like I said, the education system isn't teaching us anything but to remember, to reiterate what somebody else said or did.
Right. And a lot of conjectural beliefs. The history books are so skewed, it's not even funny. The victor of the war always writes the history. And there's 3 sides to every story. There's his side, her side, and then there's the fucking truth. All right, but here's something I want to point out. Bud Light makes one of their spokespersons, some guy with a dick that wears a dress, right? And their business goes to zero. You have the same thing happening in your school systems, and nobody's pulling their kids out of school.
Exactly.
That astonishes me on a level that isn't even comprehensible. You got a swinging dick wearing a dress that represents a beer company, and all of a sudden nobody's buying their product anymore. They're doing the same thing in your public school system, but you don't have the strength to pull your offspring out of that environment. That does not make fucking sense to me.
I can't have my kid growing up to be learning how to.
Well, here's what the government says: if you pull your kid out of school, we'll have to put you in jail. That's child endangerment. Fuck you. I govern myself. I'll take care of my own. I always have taken care of my own. Remember in 2008 when you bailed out the banks because they were too big to fail, but you fucked all the little guys? Fuck you, here's to me. I'll do what's best for me and mine. You fucking mind your own business. That's simple. You got to put a foot in their ass and then tell all your neighbors, hey, you see the cops over here take my fucking offspring. We all need to come together. Use a camera. You don't have to come out with a gun. Use a camera. Record the shit, get together, fill out affidavits, and take their asses into the court and send them to fucking Guantanamo. Human trafficking, child abduction, all right, harassment, violating the castle doctrine, all right, breach of your peace. And anybody that participated in it becomes a conspirator.
DNA modification.
Mm-hmm.
This is sickening, people, and that's against. They already had these trials. They were called Nuremberg trials, and the first of the 10 points said the voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. So, what do people do? They line up and consent.
But look, even the government was corrupted back then. Operation Paperclip. They give you just enough of a facade to lead people to believe that they're legitimate, while behind the scenes they're fist fucking everybody.
Yeah. All
right. They did the Nuremberg trial. What? 12 people hung. Big fucking deal. There were thousands of people behind the crimes. What did they do? They imported them into the United States and put them on military bases.
Yeah.
Started conducting secret fucking experiments on humans. Used it to start the CIA. They used Ukraine to do the same thing.
Yep, masterminds behind World War II in the German front on the military side. And they brought them all over to the United States and hired them.
The American people are suffering because the banks are failing, yet Ukraine just got 1.42 billion just the other day. We're really out of financial wherewithal when you can print it out of thin air. Get the fuck out of here. Only an idiot would believe that shit at this point. Just being real. I don't sugarcoat shit.
I don't know.
By the way, if you don't,
I can write him a note.
If you don't have a thick skin for class, I'm gonna tell you, it might chap your ass a little bit because in case you can't tell, I don't sugarcoat shit.
Yeah. I don't. Well, neither does anybody else. You were mentioning Smoking Baby and others, and they don't sugarcoat either.
Nope.
You know, these are guys behind the scenes, folks. And
it's all about brass taxes.
How long was your last class? Over 48 hours?
My last one almost was 72 hours straight. I'm going to start breaking them down because it's hard for people to focus that long.
Right.
And but depending on the interactions and how people are receiving it, kind of determines how long they push on. And this may be a multifaceted class because there are processes and procedures that I have to execute while I'm doing this. So
Right.
Might be a 2 or 3 week course that comes out of this, but remedy after remedy after remedy after fucking remedy is going to be laid out and laid down, clear cut and dry, no ifs, ands, or buts. If you have questions about it, I'd be more than happy to answer it, but it's all pretty much self-fucking-explanatory. I'll show you where I got the information. I'll show you where it's upheld in law. I'll show you where it's affirmed in the courts.
And I got to ask you,
everything. Not that I give a shit about case precedent for the most part, because similar is not same, and just similar things should not be joined. I'm a very unique man, and I will determine who, what, when, where, how, and why I do things. All right.
Yeah, and I got to ask you too. In your memory here, I'm sure you've got a lot of things going on since the never-ending Zoom. But do you remember the never-ending Zoom?
Yeah.
How long did that last? About a year and a half?
It went on for a long time, but I stopped counting after 9 months. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. People like Keith, just all kinds of people. Ex-CIA members that were recently euthanized by the government used to drop in there and actually give classes and knowledge about how corrupt the government was. I mean, it was amazing the amount of people that filtered through that.
And when we're in this research, it's vital that we research both sides of the track. So when we have people like that on the Zooms and on our panels and stuff, is that a detriment? Or should people start seeing that as the ability to communicate with the enemy, or communicate and come to arbitration with the enemy without having to kill them?
It's about having a full ascension of the mind. It's about seeing things from both perspectives. I mean, to understand good, one must have encountered evil at some point. You can't understand true happiness unless you felt the depths and despair of sorrow, right? To understand how valuable life is, you really can't comprehend it until maybe you've had a near-death experience to realize how virtuous and how glorious life really is. Right. The grass is a little bit greener when you started to lose your eyesight and everything turned gray, and then you got your eyesight back and you're like, wow, I'm very thankful for this. Holy cow, what a blessing,
And so when we look at backgrounds and stuff, like I mentioned, the CIA, a lot of people don't see them as having a great background and stuff. But and people are getting angry at bankers and lawyers and judges and stuff for specific reasons, of course. But what about people like myself and yourself who have these felonies on record and stuff that I've got 93 cases. I don't know how many cases you've got, and you've pretty much beat all of yours, right?
I've lost a few
in your younger days.
I've lost a few when I was younger. I haven't lost any in the last few years. Even the ones that I've purportedly lost just magically disappear. So that's amazing. I haven't ever come across anybody else that's had that happen. But that's how equity works. In the middle of the night when nobody's watching, poof, things just disappear as though they never happened.
Right.
And so there are virtuous men and women in the system that hesitate to stand up because it's so fucking corrupt that if they do it publicly, they'll be ousted, they'll be murdered, they'll be Clinton, they'll be Epstein, and they know it. So there are good people that are there, and people go, well, why don't they stand up? Well, if they stand up, it's so systemic and so corrupt at this point, they'll be euthanized or eradicated or removed, or something will be trumped up against them.
Right.
But there are people in the system behind the scenes that, for good men and women like myself, make things happen. And the only reason I know that case disappeared is because somebody, allegedly a professor from Yale University who teaches law, called me up and asked, what did I do with that case? And I go, I don't know what you're talking about. I handle a lot of cases. What are you talking about? And he said, you know what I'm talking about, the motorcycle case. My class and I were following it. What did you do? Did you file an appeal? Where did it go? It's gone. I can't find it anywhere. I had no knowledge of that. They did that. They didn't publicize it. They didn't tell me. They didn't want me to know about it. I'm certain as hell they didn't want me publicly telling people that it disappeared. But that's in fact what happened. It's gone. It doesn't exist. Go look on Pacer. Go call Broken Bow and ask them for the file. They don't have it. It doesn't exist. The case never fucking happened. And it was all to give the illusion that 1.9 million Nebraskans have to pay an automobile tax. When I proved the point that you don't, and the jury found me guilty because they're incompetent and I went about it the wrong way, it was my fault. I failed the jury. The jury didn't fail me. I failed them. I was the failure in that equation. I didn't articulate it properly. I knew in my heart how I was supposed to approach it, and I defied God and said, I'm going to be a lawyer today. And I reaped what I fucking sowed. And
you remember what I
end of it,
you don't yet.
in the back end of it, there was somebody that's been called by a higher power who answered to it and said, poof, gone.
Yeah.
Just like that.
See, it's when we start exposing things, it's kind of like that blue line. A good cop gets fired and he never gets rehired because he's a good cop. But a bad cop will get fired and the next town over will say, hey, come here.
He just gets transferred. He doesn't get fired. He's like, hey, go ahead and resign real quick, and then you can apply in the next county over.
Yep.
That's what they do with bad cops, because they don't bite the hand that feeds them.
Yeah. You don't bite the hand that's feeding you, because you got to go home and feed your family. And that's the same concept with, hey, if he shoots first, go ahead and shoot after him. You go ahead and shoot at the same target. Make sure that motherfucker is dead.
Think about this. The rules of engagement in war is you're not to fire until fired upon. But here in the United States, hundreds of thousands of American men, women, and children have all been slain. They've been laid to rest unarmed by gun-toting, donut-eating, fat, lazy motherfuckers because they were in fear for their life. I'm going to tell you something. I saw a guy running from a bear one time. I could clearly tell he was in fear for his life. You want to know how I could identify that? Logic, reason, sound doctrines, and principles. He was running away. Most of the cops that shoot people, they're running towards. They're chasing after. How can you claim you're in fear for your life when you've got a gun, your gun is drawn, you're brandishing a weapon, and you're running somebody down like a fucking dog? Fuck out of here with that.
Louder than words. Yep, actions speak louder than words, and people refuse to pay attention to that. Well, the guy was a bad guy. That still does not miss.
This is why they train cops to say, stop resisting, stop resisting, stop resisting. So when they play the video, everybody goes, well, Jesus, he must have been resisting. Now, I've been in a lot of fights, and I'm going to tell you right now, if somebody's kicking the dog shit out of me, my natural instinct, it is an impulse. I can't really fight it. It's like breathing, okay? It's an unconscious reflex. When somebody's kicking the shit out of you, you're going to get in the fetal position. You're going to protect your abdomen, and you're going to protect your cranium. You're going to protect the back of your neck. So while these people are profusely beating the shit out of people, trying to manipulate their body and pull and tug on them like a rag doll, they're trained to say, stop resisting, stop resisting. So it gives the semblance and the appearance that the guy's resisting. No, that's not what's transpiring. He's getting the shit kicked out of him, and nature dictates that your body does an involuntary muscle spasm to contract, to protect your vital organs and to protect your cranium and to protect your neck. And yet 12 jury members aren't intelligent enough to figure that shit out. And it pisses me off. People have been dumbed down to such an extent, they're fucking retarded. And it hurts my soul. It hurts me. You know, the good Lord says the meek shall inherit the earth. Well, look what happened when the meek inherited the earth. The tyrants ruled.
Yeah,
some of us were put on this earth, and we weren't put here to be nice or play well with others. We're here to help. We need to stand together. We need to unite, and we need to say, fuck off. Enough is enough. You cronies want to fucking participate in your artifices and schemes and shit. Let's ship you all over to Epstein Island. You can have your own sick, satanic, sadistic fucking shit over there. We'll even leave you the fuck alone. But you come to our land again, straight to Guantanamo you go.
Yeah, that's one thing that I think we need to implore in remedy in a lot of people is, you know, most people in their suit that I've noticed over the last 10 years are going for money, you know, and I think a large part of that remedy is the recourse on those actors that are participating in it over.
They actually love it when you go for money. They love it because it's just ones and zeros on a ledger, and it doesn't actually affect them or cause them harm, damage, or loss. You know what scares them? When you don't care about materialistic things anymore, and you actually want them to go to Guantanamo, where they meet a short fall and a sudden stop, and that's when they realize they have gone too far. They don't even care about the money anymore. They want fucking blood. And most people go, oh, Derrick, that's just so evil. Really? Your daughter, your son was sent to some foreign country on behest of a fucking banker to unjustly enrich themselves and lie, loot, plunder, and steal from another nation and steal their resources. And somehow I'm the one that sounds fucking crazy? Fuck out of here with that ideology. I'm just real. I'm brutally fucking honest. I'm abrasive as fucking 30 grit sandpaper. It will chap your ass. I guarantee it. But at the end of the day, after you let this marinate for a few days, you go, son of a bitch, he's right.
Yeah, well,
the reason evil prevails is because good people have conscience and morals and won't go to the extreme that sadistic sadist fuckers will go to oppress you. I'm telling you, some of us were put on this earth that do have morals, do have moral fiber and a compass, but we see what needs to be done. And we're not going to enjoy doing it while we do it, but it has to be done for the greater good of mankind, for the greater good of the people. We must lay their inequities at our Father's feet. Prayer only goes so far, ladies and gentlemen. At some point, you got to take them to the fucking gallows. They got to ride old Sparky. They got to hang out at the firing squad.
And part of the problem is the fear of the people, too, in that hotel incident where they shot the man who was on his knees begging for his life, had children to go home to, and they shot him.
And the cop was exonerated.
Exactly. International TV, and the people didn't raise up in arms enough. It was blatantly put out there for everybody to see, but the people didn't raise up in arms enough and demand that that man be sent and convicted. And, and it's because the people placated, well, he had a gun.
And it's because they suffer from Stockholm syndrome. Those are the police. They're just doing their best. They have a really tough job. Blah, blah, blah. No, 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 no. If they were honoring their oath, none of that shit would have ever occurred.
And I'll tell you guys something. My brother Derrick loves his guns, just like our brother Paul loves his guns, just like many people across this great nation love their guns. I love guns too, but I don't have to own them. I walk the same mean streets all these cops say they walk, and that's the reason that they carry those guns because they're mean streets. I walk the same streets since I was 10 years old telling them, fuck you, you ain't my daddy. I don't need a gun. Why do you?
Right.
Well, you need a gun because they have them.
No, the reason they carry guns is to when you don't agree with their ideology, what does a tyrant do? They immediately resort to physical violence and force.
Immediately.
There's only two types of respect in this world: respect freely given and respect beaten into you. That's it.
And that's what Paul talks about on his panel. He's not here demanding that you respect him. He's hoping that someday you'll respect him enough to freely give it because you know what he's saying is true, right, and correct.
Yep. It's tough for people with cognitive dissonance to hear what I say. And they're like, oh, he says he's a godly man, but look, he's talking about euthanizing people. Let me remind you, God wiped out an entire town, an entire community. Jesus flogged bankers.
The pillar of salt.
Yep.
He will do it in many ways to many people or even just one person. If you lose faith in him, you die.
Yep. I'll die on my feet long before I would even fucking have a hinkling of being on my knees. It will never happen.
Well, we spoke about that earlier. The only time I would be on bended knee is with other men with me, convincing, like in front of the UN, that they need to be on bended knee because the only time we bend knee is to our Father which art in heaven. Do you agree? And if they don't, they will remain standing. If not, they will get the understanding to God and they will bend their knee.
Yes. And Gandhi did it right too. Gandhi chose not to use violence and said, instead, we'll just allow you to show yourself for who you really are. And the Brits had to pack their shit and leave because all they were doing was murdering people. And it was very clear they weren't there for peace and to create unity. They were there to lord over. So let your actions, not your words, show who you are. And when Gandhi said that, all of a sudden they're like, shit, we got to go. We're massacring these people. They're not going to fight back. We can't justify our actions. They're not the aggressor. We are. And we look absolutely crazy. Nobody's going to trust us anymore. We're violating trust. We said we were coming here peacefully to have negotiations and talks and see if we could grow as a community. And instead, our actions are showing that we're tyrants. We're here to lord over you and use force against them. So there's a time to be peaceful, and then there's a time for action. And ladies and gentlemen, we've been peaceful and quiet long enough. It's time for some action. It's time for these people to go to Guantanamo Bay.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, brother, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I was going to play the whole video, but you got on live, and I think that's the best. If people want to see the video, go to Derrick Gonzales' Facebook page. The video is still up. He's got a class coming up on the 24th, and I hope you pay attention. It's a Zoom class, 100 seats. A lot of them.
There'll be more than 100. I'll make room for however many people contribute. So it is awesome. Right now it's set up for 100 seats. So the first 100 are definitely in. If I've got to expand the room, I'll do that. Awesome. I think I'm not sure what it costs to expand it, but we'll make it happen. We'll take care of it. So.
All right. And another thing, guys, expansive library, both firsthand experience wise and physical library that he's attained over the years. He backs up everything he says and shows sources just like I do. It's very important that we understand where this stuff is coming from, and that's how we can learn how to use it against them. It's their bullshit. All of it is their bullshit.
Yep. I like to ask him this question. Which lie is the truth?
There you go.
It's kind of like asking them if they still beat their wife. Either way they answer it, they are fucked. Yep. I like to be stunning and cunning about the way that I ask my questions. I like to put them in a little box, and then I go, checkmate, motherfucker, I got you. Yep. Either way you answer now, you're fucked. You either purged yourself. Which lie is the truth? Which lie should we believe? Yep. It's all about putting them in checkmate. And as soon as you learn the skill to be able to do that by asking the proper questions, game over. You are now known as bad for business. They don't want to talk to you. They don't want to deal with you. They're going to tell their agents and agency to leave you the fuck alone. You are bad for business.
Yep. And one of my favorite ones, Dean Phillip throws up 1 USC 1 insanity as I get ready to mention 7 USC 136 definitions where it says animal includes man. So I like to ask them, can you license an animal?
Yep. Can you license something that's God's creation? No. Do you have dominion over God's creation? No. Well, then what the fuck are you doing trying to lord over me? Fuck out of here with your nonsensical Babylonian bullshit, you satanic fuck.
Yep. So you guys meet my brother Derrick. I've still got your site up on my site. Hopefully that's been helping people find you there. I think I'm going to start doing a few more videos with you if you don't mind.
Yeah, you bet.
I
also have an awesome YouTube channel. I mean, everything that we're going to cover in class, I've packed into YouTube for absolutely free. My heart and soul is dedicated to this. This is my calling. Everybody is called. Few ever answer the call. Everybody has a purpose. The Heavenly Father put you here at this time, at this place for a specific reason. Now it's a matter of whether or not you'll answer. Everybody is called, not just some. Everybody. Worldwide, everybody is called. So the choice is yours. And know that although at times things may seem a little unorthodox or maybe a little beyond your comprehension, surrounding yourself with people that constantly study and are constantly ascending of the mind and putting themselves in harm's way, going through fire and brimstone. They're not doing it for vanity. They're not doing it for themselves. When I prevailed in court, I used to have this thing, oh, I did it. And one of my mentors said, no, stop. How vain is that? You didn't do shit. The people prevailed today, Derrick. Recognize it for what it is. The Heavenly Father helped you. You didn't prevail alone, and his people prevailed today.
Yep.
All the glory be to God. All the glory is his. Don't be like Lucifer trying to claim that glory, because look what happened to Lucifer, right? All the glory be to God. So, amen. I love you guys. We'll talk to you soon. Remember, there is nothing wrong with righteous anger. Not a damn thing. It's not out of malice. It's not out of discontent. It's righteous. We want what's true, correct, accurate, and not misleading. And we will settle for nothing fucking less. Period. I love you guys.
All right. Thanks, brother. Dropping your YouTube link in the chat. I'm going to grab your site link and drop that as well. And I believe it's selfgovernance.u still.
My YouTube channel, I think, is Derrick Gonzales, but I'm not sure. And then my selfgovernanceu.com. Yeah, still the same website. Yep.
All right, there you go, folks. Both those links are in the chat section. Thanks for joining us, brother Derrick. Love you, brother. I'll get in touch with you soon, and I'll be there for the class on the 24th. Everybody else, I want to say thanks to everybody for joining us. Inspired Wilderness Mentoring, Witness, Dean Phillips, Never Mind Me, Layla. I saw Cleveland Steve in here earlier. Everybody, please check out those links. Be prepared for waking up and actually doing something in your life if you get involved with Derrick. He's one of the better motivators in regards to coming down to doing things and being active. He's done more than most everybody I know put together, and he's being successful in every venue. The truck he has, he didn't purchase. It was a arbitration under private agreement of custom order, and everything was done privately. The MCOs, and it's none of their business, so it's in his trust. That's why it doesn't have plates on it. That's why they try to tell him he's got to have plates, and he beats every case because it's already established as trust property. So pay attention, learn how to deal with this stuff, and come into your own through your own education. Again, Jose 4:6, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, and therefore the true benefit is the knowledge. And that knowledge teaches you what, like he said, the difference between contract and trust. They're two different topics, subjects, and everything, and you need to learn how to discern both of them. So thank you again for joining us, and God bless. Everybody have a good night. And remember, I love you, but I don't give a fuck whether you love me back. Get out there and start doing something and learn how to love yourself, and everybody will automatically learn how to love you by that alone. Have a good night. Bye.